For many Australians, Sydney was once the dream. Now it feels more like a cage with a view.
Very bad right now in Sydney, yeah, especially all reduced like a 40 now.
Traffic. 81% said it's worse this year than last. Sydney's CBD was ranked the most congested, followed closely by Western Sydney and Southwestern Sydney.
It's a crisis years in the making. Nationwide home prices in Australia are higher than ever. Rents are at record levels and homelessness is rising. In Sydney, the average home costs almost 14 times the annual disposable income, making it the world's second most expensive city to buy property after Hong Kong.
You're in this state of just complete heartbreak, disbelief, like embarrassment. I opened it up and it was all the correspondence that seemed the same from every other email I'd had from him, the directions on how to make the payment, and I just felt like it was real.
But the email wasn't real. It was from scammers impersonating the law firm she'd engaged, mimicking nearly every detail.
The woman was taken by force from her Bankstown home on Thursday night by 5 armed men.
Chapter 1. The Illusion of Opportunity. Sydney, the sparkling jewel of Australia, has long marketed itself as a city of opportunity. The skyline gleams with promise, beaches invite prosperity, and business hubs pump out billions in GDP. But behind the glitz lies a truth that more residents are waking up to every day. Sydney is becoming unlivable for the average Australian. Take the story of Thomas and Rachel, a middle-income couple in their early 30s. Both have university degrees. Thomas is an IT professional and Rachel works in marketing. Combined, they bring home around $170,000 a year, well above the national average. But in Sydney, they barely scrape by. After rent, groceries, bills, childcare, and transport, they save almost nothing. Their dream of owning a home? Fading fast. A basic 2-bedroom apartment in the suburbs sells for over $900,000. With a 20% deposit, they'd need $180,000 up front, just to get a loan that would lock them into 30 years of debt. Sydney sells itself as a city of ambition. But for many like Thomas and Rachel, it's starting to look more like a high-stakes trap where escape feels impossible. Chapter 2. The Rent Crisis. The rental market in Sydney has spiraled into madness. Vacancy rates are at historic lows. In early 2025, the average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment hit $720 per week. That's nearly $38,000 a year just for rent. And it gets worse. Inspections are now war zones. Dozens of applicants crowd into tight foyers, resumes and references in hand, desperately hoping for a chance. Some landlords now expect 6 months of rent in advance, and even then, they can pick from a list of qualified professionals, many of whom are still rejected. Hannah, a nurse working full-time in Western Sydney, spent 11 months couch surfing after her lease ended. She had perfect rental history, no debts, and a stable job, but it wasn't enough. Competition from wealthier applicants and corporate tenants swallowed the market. A city where even the essential workers can't afford to live is not sustainable. And yet Sydney keeps marching forward, blindfolded. Chapter 3. The Housing Ownership Mirage. Sydney's housing market is one of the most unaffordable in the world. According to Demographia's 2024 report, it ranked second globally, just behind Hong Kong, in terms of price-to-income ratio. This means an average-priced home in Sydney now costs 14 times the median household income. The global standard for affordability? 3 times income. Property prices have skyrocketed beyond the reach of average earners, and interest rate rises have only added more pressure. Even those who managed to buy in the past decade are now finding their mortgage repayments nearly double what they were 2 years ago. Investors and overseas buyers, many of whom are protected from the daily struggles of working Australians, dominate the market. What was once the great Australian dream has become a speculative playground for the global elite. Chapter 4. Trapped by transport. Sydney's transport system is another layer in the trap. Traffic congestion has reached record highs. Commuters from western suburbs spend upwards of 2 hours per day just getting to work and back. That's 10 hours a week, an entire workday spent stuck in gridlock. Public transport? While the metro and trains cover most of the city, they're plagued by delays, breakdowns, and overcrowding. A 2024 state report showed that train punctuality during peak times had dropped below 85%, well below target. For young families, transport is a daily stressor. Dropping kids at daycare, getting to work, then returning in time to avoid late fees is a logistical nightmare. Add to that rising fuel prices, toll roads, and parking fees, and you have a city that punishes mobility. Chapter 5. The Work-Life Spiral. Sydney is Australia's economic engine, but it demands a high cost from its workers. Long hours, intense competition, and a culture of overachievement have created a burnout epidemic. A 2024 survey from the Australian Psychological Society showed that over 60% of full-time workers in Sydney reported high levels of stress related to cost of living and job security. Mental health services are overwhelmed, with wait lists stretching into months. For many, there is no time for leisure, no time for community, no time for family. The city grinds you down, then sells you a weekend beach photo as compensation. Chapter 6. Immigration, density, and urban strain. Sydney's rapid population growth, driven by record immigration levels, has placed immense pressure on its infrastructure. Between 2016 and 2023, Greater Sydney added nearly 800,000 people. By 2026, it's projected to add another 500,000. The city has not kept pace. Schools are overcrowded, hospitals are understaffed, roads and trains are beyond capacity. Suburbs once considered quiet are now packed, and green spaces are vanishing under the pressure of new developments. This density doesn't equal diversity or vibrancy anymore. For many, it just feels like overpopulation, an urban sprawl without a soul. Chapter 7. The Vanishing Middle Class. Sydney has become a tale of two cities, the ultra-rich and the working poor. The middle class, tradies, teachers, nurses, young professionals, are being squeezed out. They can't afford to buy, and soon they won't be able to rent. The result? An exodus to regional areas or interstate. Queensland, Victoria, and even Tasmania are seeing rising migration from New South Wales residents searching for affordability. But not everyone can leave. Work, family, visa ties, and children's education keep many anchored, and so the trap closes tighter. Chapter 8. The Illusion of Wealth. Sydney has high incomes on paper, but disposable income tells a different story. When you factor in housing, transport, food, energy, and education costs, most people are running on empty. A recent ANZ report showed that Sydney households have among the highest average incomes in the country, but also among the highest debt-to-income ratios. People are rich on paper but poor in reality. Drowning in credit, mortgages, and repayments, it's a house of cards built on inflated values and over-leveraged families. Chapter 9. Gentrification and Displacement. Old neighborhoods are vanishing. Marrickville, Redfern, and Newtown were once working-class enclaves, rich with culture and character. Now they're investment zones for property developers and foreign capital. Long-time residents are being priced out. Communities are being dismantled. What replaces them is often sterile, unaffordable, and disconnected. In the rush for profit, the human cost has been ignored. Sydney is losing its soul. Chapter 10. Can you escape? So, why does Sydney feel like a trap? Because the exit routes are disappearing. For many, moving out means job loss, loss of community, or uprooting children. For others, they're on skilled visas tied to locations. Some have aging parents who need them nearby. Others just feel stuck, unable to imagine a different life. Escape is possible, but the window is closing. And every day spent hoping for change is a day deeper into the trap. Final thoughts. The path forward. Sydney doesn't have to stay this way, but it requires leadership willing to break from the status quo. Massive investment in infrastructure, a housing reset, rent caps, decentralization of jobs, and immigration tied to capacity instead of quotas. These are not easy fixes, but without them, Sydney will continue its slide from world-class city to urban dystopia. Until then, many will continue to wake up to the skyline with a sinking feeling that this dream city has quietly become a gilded cage. Subscribe to Outback Crisis for more deep dives into Australia's future. And if you want to see how other cities are collapsing under mass immigration, check out this video next.